You're listening to the Spark Radio Network, Internet radio like you've never heard before. Innovation, creativity, and imagination are all said to begin with a spark. So fasten your seatbelt and take the ride of your life and listen for the spark.
You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
Most writers and radio show hosts know that to connect with your fans, you need to do more than just write books or record the latest podcasts. There are many different elements that go into forming an online platform, but there are also many hidden traps. To make matters worse, solid advice on how to survive the muddy waters is scarce. In the book Hidden Traps, I talk about some of the important issues of working with an online platform, highlighting traps that could put your physical or internet security at risk or be harmful to your reputation. Are your social media posts just links with a few disjointed words, making you look like someone who can't complete a sentence? Did your new website cost you more than you anticipated? Are you leaking your personal contact details across the web without even knowing it? Then you need Hidden Traps. Hidden Traps is now available in paperback and ebook from a variety of retailers, including Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and Kobo. Visit blackwolfpublications.com for more details.
If you're 85 or younger, would you like peace of mind and comfort for your family? We're Final Expense Direct with an urgent message for you. The average funeral today costs over $8,000, but the most you'll get from government benefits is $255. How will your family pay the difference? We can help. Our senior plans start as low as just $1 a day and pay up to $30,000 for a funeral and other final expenses. Peace of mind is easy. There's no medical exam. You'll have lifetime coverage, and your plan can't be canceled as long as you pay your premiums. Call now for free information about our senior plans. Answer a few simple questions and receive approval right on the phone. Plus, call right now and we'll give you a discount prescription card for free. Call 800-553-8687. That's 800-553-8687. Again, 800-553-8687.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
Attention business owners and independent contractors. This is a money-saving message from Tax Mediation Services. If your business owes $20,000 or more in taxes, we can help you today, right now. Listen, dealing with the IRS is no picnic. It's an intimidating and extremely stressful process, and you don't want to go it alone. Our attorneys know every law, every tax break, and every possible opportunity to help you resolve and reduce your tax debt. And if you owe more than $20,000, you may be at the top of their hit list. So don't take your tax debt lightly, because it will not go away on its own. The IRS can seize your bank accounts, your home, and even shut down your business. Call our tax experts today at 1-800-783-0810 and let us deal with the IRS while you focus on your business. That's 1-800-783-0810. Again, that's 800-783-0810.
My son was in the Army back during Desert Storm, but even then he wanted an MBA. He looked at a dozen schools, but only one offered the online education and flexibility he needed while he was in a tent in Iraq. Grantham University. Turns out that Grantham's been delivering affordable, relevant college and advanced degrees for over 65 years. Heck, if they can deliver a quality education to a soldier in a tent overseas, think about the flexibility Grantham can offer you so you can earn your degree too. It doesn't matter how complicated or full your life is. If getting a degree is on your bucket list, you'll want to do what my son did. You'll want to call Grantham. Find out how easy it is to get started on your education so you can check that college degree off your bucket list. Call Grantham right now. 800-910-1370. That's 800-910-1370. Flexible, affordable, relevant. Call 800-910-1370.
Sometimes writers feel lost, unsure why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing into full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, offering manuscript critiques and line edits through a mentoring editorial style. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your websites. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services, visit blackwolfeditorial.com.
You're listening to the Spark Radio Network, internet radio like you've never heard before. Innovation, creativity, and imagination are all said to begin with a spark. So fasten your seatbelt and take the ride of your life and listen for the spark.
You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
My name is Jessie. I'm a United States Special Forces widow. This gives me a unique perspective on the world around us. If you're willing to listen, I'll tell you how I see it, and I won't pull any punches. This is my POV, which stands for Point of View.
Hey, this is Jessie. How y'all doing out there today? Yes, I miss you when we're not talking, but wait, I'm not alone. I got a guest. I've got Mike the Cop. Now, some of you may have heard of him from YouTube, but he has taken time out of his insane schedule to join me on Jessie's POV today. How you doing there, Mike?
I'm excellent. How are you?
Oh, couldn't be better. Firearms have been in the news so much lately. I wanted to get a law enforcement professional's opinion about what's been going on with all these firearms.
I'm not sure you should use professional with me, but law enforcement for sure. I'm more of a jokester than a professional, but yeah.
I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. What can I say?
I appreciate that.
Anyway, so, all right, in the Texas shooting that recently happened, the tragedy in Sutherland Springs,
yes.
Thankfully, there was a good guy with a gun.
Yep, absolutely.
Now, this happens more often than most people realize, that there's a good guy with a gun that puts an end to something.
Yeah, or stops it before it ever begins.
And I don't think the American populace ever hears those stories.
Oh, of course not, because it doesn't always fit the narrative, right? If you've got competing narratives, and one gets more voice than another at different times.
Well, personally, as I've said this on air, I am a Second Amendment proponent and a concealed carry permit holder. And
Sounds like an American to me.
Well, thank you. I do carry everywhere I can legally carry. And
I would encourage everybody. When I pull people over and they let me know they have their permit, but that they don't have it on them, I always actually give them a hard time. Like, well, that makes no sense. Like, why wouldn't you be carrying right now? You don't want to need it when you need it.
I'd rather have it and not need it than need it and not have it.
Yes, 100% agree there.
Now, I do take the extra step of having concealed carry insurance, but it's just peace of mind to me.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I've heard about this insurance stuff on different radio programs that I've been listening to and marketing that. It's not something I've ever looked into, but in this climate these days, it's probably worth it.
I call it $350 a year worth of peace of mind.
Yeah, for sure.
And it covers me, the particular insurance I have covers me whether I use pepper spray, taser, my firearm, whatever I use, anything I use to defend myself that is considered a weapon, it will cover me.
Yeah.
Now, how do you feel about concealed carry versus open?
I support either. I mean, I get that some people have why carry it in the open and let people know that you have it. I think both choices are great. I fully support open carry, and I think it'd be cool to go to the grocery store or wherever else and people just have guns on them. I don't find that intimidating as a police officer. I don't find that more risky for society. I would venture to guess that based on every statistic or understanding I have of how guns work in the world, that if anything, it would reduce the number of crimes, because the places that we see hit with these attacks are soft targets, in almost every case a gun-free zone, someplace where you're not supposed to have firearms. So if firearms were more prevalent, more openly prevalent, I honestly don't think that we would see the same types of attacks happening.
Well, that brings me to a very interesting point. There is a bill in your home state of Michigan that would turn gun-free zones into concealed carry zones instead. And I can understand why open carry in a school could be bad. It could freak out some of the administration, some of the students, etc. But
yeah, it could, but I think it could only now because of the way that's been perceived up to this point. You know what I'm saying? Like the way that people have been educated or understand it. Now I could see that kids would look and think, "Oh no, are we being attacked?" Right? Because we're sort of like fed this idea that school attacks happen every day in this country or something like that. So, to that point, I think the way that we've been sort of influenced or indoctrinated culturally, that could be a problem. But I sure hope that at least we can conceal carry.
Well, I have to admit, and I probably shouldn't admit to breaking the law to a cop, but since you're in a different state than I am, I'm going to go out on a limb. Those gun-free zone signs at the mall, if I'm already carrying, I don't stop and disarm. I just keep going, because if it's properly concealed, unless you search me, you're not going to know I have it.
Oh, exactly.
And
yeah, I obviously get I would assume it's the same in every state, because there's a reciprocity for law enforcement in every state, but I just carry everywhere. I mean, there are no gun-free zones for cops, so at least in Michigan.
Exactly. Now, I will say that when it comes down to would I rather be carried by 6 or judged by 12, a good lawyer can fix judged by 12. Nobody can fix carried by 6.
Correct. Although now that I said that out loud, I actually do know the NFL. So Ford Field here in Michigan, where the Detroit Lions played. Not that I would ever watch that terrible team, but yeah, the NFL is a whole other dialogue, right? The NFL has put the kibosh on carrying firearms even for off-duty officers in their fields. There's a whole battle over that, so I would never go there anyway.
I'm not a huge NFL fan, so you won't find me likely hanging out in a stadium, so I'm safe on that count.
Yep. But if I go to a Detroit Tiger game, they check you in. You go to a special entrance where law enforcement goes in. You sign in, you give them your seat number, and you even get a wristband, which, I don't know how many people would know what the wristband means, but it would be a way to identify other people who happen to have firearms in the event that there was some type of emergency. You would know who to connect with or link up with. And, and then they know where to reach you if you're needed too, seat-wise.
I think that's a great policy, and I don't see why one team would support it and the other doesn't. But the NFL is a little bit weird, and we're just going to leave them alone because, well, that could be a whole episode in and of itself.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Now, I personally will carry anywhere I can get that firearm in. Obviously, there are places where I have to go through a metal detector, so it's off. I can't do it.
Right.
But anywhere, like I said, that gun-free zone sign at the mall has never stopped me. I'm sorry. I'm already carrying. It's concealed. Unless you're going to stop me and search me, you're never going to find it.
Yeah. Yep, exactly.
Now, with Michigan, they are proposing this bill that would basically eliminate gun-free zones for concealed carry permit holders. And we were talking off air, and you mentioned when you pull somebody over and they tell you they have their permit, but they're not armed, you give them a hard time.
Yeah, I always tell them, like, man, you want it. You never know when that moment's going to come that you're going to wish you had it. Why ever put yourself in the position to where you wish you had it? Just always have it.
Now, obviously, we're going to exclude the people who can't legally own firearms from this whole conversation. If you can't legally own a firearm, don't.
Yeah, exactly.
But for those who can and who have their concealed carry permits, is there anything you think they should be doing? I mean, personally, I view shooting as a perishable skill, so I'm at the range every 4 to 6, maybe 8 weeks, every 8 weeks at most. Mm-hmm. And I shoot from both the holster I regularly carry and a couple of other holster options I use from time to time.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything you would suggest that concealed carry permit holders do?
I'm actually going to work on a video on Monday at an outdoor range. I've been trying to set this up, and one of them is going to be on mistakes that concealed carriers make. And I've kind of like put it into a sentence. You don't train often enough under stress from different positions. So a lot of people, like in Michigan, when you go through like a basic safety course, a basic NRA course, that's what's required. And then I can't remember how many rounds it is that you have to fire off, but they basically stand you there at like 3 yards and 5 yards or 7 yards or something. And then you just fire your gun. They make sure that you can fire it safely or something like that. I mean, really, you don't have to hit the target. And that's it. Some people go get that. They feel good about themselves. Okay, I've got my concealed pistol license and now I'm good to go. And that's actually a super critical mistake. I mean, it's certainly better than nothing. But at the same time, people have to understand that it is a perishable skill. You do need to practice. You do need to work on it. And you need to work on it under stress. That's something that very few people do, you know, especially when you go to a range and you get in your little lane and that's all you have. I mean, try to find an outdoor place where you can move a little bit. And, you know, routinely when we train in outdoor situations, you know, both pre and post police academy for me would be like, what happens to how you're shooting when you do 25 jumping jacks, 25 push-ups, and then sprint for 30 seconds, and then draw your gun, then pick up your gun and aim at the target? How does that impact what you're doing? Because when you're in a stressful situation, your heart rate is going to rise. So you can't exactly mimic all the same chemicals that will be released in your body, but you can at least elevate the heart rate because that has a direct physiological correlation to how you're firing. So learning to control your breathing and your reaction to little stresses or live fire things or someone yelling at you or putting you in situations that are going to take you out of your element. Because if you're at the mall shopping with your kids and all of a sudden there's like some active shooter situation and you're near there and in a position to do something about it, your heart's going to be beating out of your chest. And have you ever shot the weapon with your heart beating out of your chest? And that's going to make a difference in how you react. And then, of course, like you said, from different positions, different holsters, a lot of people carry only one way. When they're sitting in a car, they're useless. If they were sitting on public transportation, how does that have an impact on it? What if they were, you know, sitting in the pew at church? What, you know, where do they sit relative to the entrance, to how they would draw? Like thinking through these things from a really practical view. A lot of people don't take the time to do that.
Well, I think that's excellent advice, and you'd probably be proud of me then because I do practice at times with elevated heart rate. I do have a partner who I shoot with about once every 3 or 4 months who will load my magazines for me, and I don't know how many rounds are actually in there. Mm-hmm. It could be 2 rounds, 3 rounds, 10 rounds, the full 15. And it forces me to do a mag change when I'm least expecting it. And sometimes he'll slip in a snap cap instead of a live round to force me to deal with a misfire.
Right.
So now I have to admit I have an advantage. I was initially taught how to shoot by my now deceased husband, who was United States Special Forces.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that about you.
Yes, I am a Special Forces widow and then remarried an active duty soldier about 4 years after the fact.
Oh, well, my condolences on your husband, and very proud that you have overcome something like that in difficulty and still stayed in the fight to do something productive.
I married him after he'd already become Special Forces, and my whole point of view on it, to ask him to change what he did, would be ask him to change part of what I loved about him. I knew who I was marrying. I knew I could get that knock. I'm not saying it wasn't life-altering. I'm not saying there weren't some really rough times afterwards. Yep. But I wouldn't change it. So.
Oh, good.
Like I said, but I had that advantage. I was taught to shoot by one of the best. And I was taught, don't just practice with one hand. I was actually taught how to shoot with both hands. Is that something you work on as a police officer?
Yes. Shooting with strong hands, shooting with offhand, reloading with one hand. Like what happens if your left hand, you can't use it anymore? So you have your strong hand, but that mag runs dry. Now what? Like, how do you stay in the fight? How do you drop that mag and change it out with a new one with one hand? How do you do that when you're sitting in a car? How do you do that when maybe you're on your back, thinking through the different positions of these things? And obviously you would know, and anybody with common sense listening is going to know that we're not asking you to try to figure all that out in one session at the range. It's just varieties of drills and ongoing training should help to do that. And, a great example of that for me, most police cruisers, they usually will have a shotgun in a rack of some kind up front with the officer. If the department is doing what they should, there's also a rifle present somewhere. And we did this drill where we were in a car pulling up down on the range, so that we actually drive our cars onto the gun range, and then we were told by the instructor, okay, like, you're encountering fire. So this idea of, and they were live firing with that drill. So the idea of pop the lock on the gun, get it, and then address the target. Every time I was too slow that way. So I actually stopped carrying my shotgun up front. I carried it in a certain position in the trunk with my bag. And it was way faster for me to bail out of the car, move to the trunk, like hit the trunk button, bail to the back, grab the gun, and then use the whole car as cover and concealment. So you learn new things. And that was after, 6.5 years of being a cop, that I never did a drill like that until then. I'm like, man, I got to change what I'm doing because that's not good enough.
Now,
so, yeah.
One trick that my first husband used to use when he was downrange and he was driving in a vehicle, he'd always put his rifle just inside the driver's side door. So if he had to bail, the rifle fell out with him.
Yeah, absolutely. Those are typically in the police world. If you know that you're going to come into contact and knowing you're using your rifle, that would be an option. But obviously for law enforcement officers, riding around with a gun in their lap is typically not an option because you got people walking up to your car and asking you questions and directions, and you're in and out all the time. And so it just has to be the right situation for us.
Right. I understand that. But I find that interesting. Now, let's talk about vehicles for a second. You're talking about concealment and cover. Explain the difference. I know it. You know it. Let's explain it for my listeners.
So you could hide behind a cardboard box and you might conceal yourself, but you really don't have cover from someone firing a gun at you because even the tiniest of rounds are likely to go through the cardboard box and hit you. So you could also be covered with other things, but not as concealed. So you might be more visible, but you might be more covered, and more parts of you would be covered by something that would protect you from a round. So the ideal situation is where you can have both of those. That not only are you mostly concealed, but you're mostly covered. So that the covering is what protects you from the rounds. So I would rather have, an engine block covering me than a cardboard box.
So the engine block of a vehicle will stop a bullet. What other parts of a vehicle are good to use if you can't get to the engine block?
Behind, if you can use tire areas, I mean, the wheels and tires will help that, mitigate that, depending on the vehicle. Some patrol cruisers now come with a plate put inside the doors, so you can actually open the door and use that as concealment and cover because it's actually armored to protect. So it honestly just depends on the vehicle.
Okay, but engine blocks are always good.
engine blocks are phenomenal. That's one of the reasons I love the Crown Vic. Had a huge area and great for the shooting scenarios. Some of the newer vehicles like Tauruses aren't as convenient.
All right. Now, other than practice for the concealed carry permit holders, and obviously carry your firearm, what advice would you give to people who they've just had that traffic stop, they've got a police officer walking up on them, they have a concealed carry? What do?
I don't think they really do much different than anybody else. I mean, on no traffic stop, officers are always going to be more leery of a lot of movement in the vehicle. So, if you have your stuff that's quickly accessible, like the typical, registration and proof of insurance, that sort of a thing, if that's quickly accessible when you're getting pulled over, great, go ahead and get it. But if you're one of the people who have like 12 years of stuff buried in your glove box and it's not accessible, then just chill out for a second and wait till the officer gets up to the car and hands visible, and just obviously say like, hey, my stuff is in the glove box, but there's a lot of stuff in there, so I got to kind of dig through it to get it or whatever. I have my concealed pistol license or CCW, whatever they call it in whatever state. And some states are like Michigan, it's a required, if you're carrying, you're required, if you have your license, to inform an officer if you're coming in contact with them. Not if you just see me getting a big gulp at 7-Eleven. You don't have to walk out, oh, there's a cop in uniform, I got to go tell him I have a gun. Not like that, but if I'm coming in contact with you for some type of law enforcement purpose, you're required to tell me. So just follow the law. Some states aren't like that. Some states don't require you to tell an officer, which I'm fine with also, but just follow your state law, stay calm, and just use common sense.
I have reciprocity in a number of states with my concealed carry, and I've made it a habit that if I'm ever pulled over, I hand the police officer my driver's license and concealed carry permit at the same time, because I carry my license and concealed carry permit in a pouch on my waist, so I can pull both of them in seconds.
Yeah.
And I will inform the officer of exactly where the firearm is, where it is, and I'm usually carrying concealed.
Yeah.
So that's, I stay very still. I'll pull those two items and say, I do have a firearm. I always use the term firearm, not gun. I find it's a less emotional term, for lack of hope. So I'll say, I do have a firearm. It's in a holster in X location on my body. How would you like to handle this? And I put the ball back in the officer's court. Yeah,
absolutely. There's a lot of differences. It seems like I've never seen this personally, but I've seen it on videos. Not that means it happens a lot. And when I have done a couple of content pieces on concealed carry, I have had people reach out to me and say, hey, an officer asked me to hand them my gun for safety purposes. That to me sounds nonsensical. Like I would never have a concealed carry person hand me their gun on a traffic stop, because I'm assuming the best about that person as far as, well, they can legally carry this gun. What reason do I need to have them hand it to me? And it's actually, if I'm going to ask them to reach for their gun and hand it to me, I'm actually putting myself in a bad position if they had some type of ill intent. The only time I've ever done that is like in a domestic situation where there's been a fight between the husband and wife and one of them has a weapon, on them or near them. We might remove that if there's already an altercation happening and then hold on to that separate until that's resolved. But on a traffic stop, I would never do that.
Okay. Well, that's an interesting perspective. Is there anything else you wanted to talk about? I mean, I think the Michigan law that's been proposed that would essentially turn quote-unquote gun-free zones, or as I call them, as you referred to them, soft targets, into concealed carry zones instead of gun-free zones is a good one.
Absolutely.
And personally, I ignore those signs anyway.
Right, yeah.
But is there anything else you wanted to talk about before we close this segment out?
No, I think that sort of like encapsulates most of those questions for me.
All right. Well, I thank you for joining me today. I know you're short on time, so you can't stay for the whole episode, but as I do with all my guests at the end of any interview, I always give them a chance to give out their social media contact information.
Well, I'm not too hard to find as far as my Mike the Cop stuff goes, because if you look up Mike the Cop Facebook, Mike the Cop Instagram, Mike the Cop Twitter, Mike the Cop Snapchat, I don't know. I'm everywhere, and it's not hard to find. Everything is pretty much listed on my Instagram. It's like Mike_the Cop. And from there, my Facebook link is there. My website's there. Twitter's there, and Snapchat's there. So it's all there.
Well, I would like to thank you for what you do every when you are wearing the uniform in the community, because many people remember to thank the military. Very few people remember to thank the law enforcement that protect us every day.
I appreciate that.
All right. Well, thank you, and have an outstanding day.
You too.
Well, that has been my interview with Mike the Cop. Now, I'm trying to encourage him to come back on and do it again live so he can interact with my guests, my friends in the chat room, and various other things. To try and encourage this to happen, do me a favor, send me an email, Jessie's POV at KLRNRadio.com. All right, it is time to pay those radio station bills. So, I will see you on the other side.
You're listening to the Spark Radio Network, Internet radio like you've never heard before. Innovation, creativity, and imagination are all said to begin with a spark. So fasten your seatbelt and take the ride of your life and listen for the spark.
You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
Most writers and radio show hosts know that to connect with your fans, you need to do more than just write books or record the latest podcasts. There are many different elements that go into forming an online platform, but there are also many hidden traps. To make matters worse, solid advice on how to survive the muddy waters is scarce. In the book Hidden Traps, I talk about some of the important issues of working with an online platform, highlighting traps that could put your physical or internet security at risk or be harmful to your reputation. Are your social media posts just links with a few disjointed words, making you look like someone who can't complete a sentence? Did your new website cost you more than you anticipated? Are you leaking your personal contact details across the web without even knowing it? Then you need Hidden Traps. Hidden Traps is now available in paperback and ebook from a variety of retailers, including Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and Kobo. Visit blackwolfpublications.com for more details.
If you're 85 or younger, would you like peace of mind and comfort for your family? We're Final Expense Direct with an urgent message for you. The average funeral today costs over $8,000, but the most you'll get from government benefits is $255. How will your family pay the difference? We can help. Our senior plans start as low as just $1 a day and pay up to $30,000 for a funeral and other final expenses. Peace of mind is easy. There's no medical exam. You'll have lifetime coverage, and your plan can't be canceled as long as you pay your premiums. Call now for free information about our senior plans. Answer a few simple questions and receive approval right on the phone. Plus, call right now and we'll give you a discount prescription card for free. Call 800-553-8687. That's 800-553-8687. Again, 800-553-8687.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
Attention business owners and independent contractors. This is a money-saving message from Tax Mediation Services. If your business owes $20,000 or more in taxes, we can help you today, right now. Listen, dealing with the IRS is no picnic. It's an intimidating and extremely stressful process, and you don't want to go it alone. Our attorneys know every law, every tax break, and every possible opportunity to help you resolve and reduce your tax debt. And if you owe more than $20,000, you may be at the top of their hit list. So don't take your tax debt lightly, because it will not go away on its own. The IRS can seize your bank accounts, your home, and even shut down your business. Call our tax experts today at 1-800-783-0810 and let us deal with the IRS while you focus on your business. That's 1-800-783-0810. Again, that's 800-783-0810.
My son was in the Army back during Desert Storm, but even then he wanted an MBA. He looked at a dozen schools, but only one offered the online education and flexibility he needed while he was in a tent in Iraq, Grantham University. Turns out that Grantham's been delivering affordable, relevant college and advanced degrees for over 65 years. Heck, if they can deliver a quality education to a soldier in a tent overseas, think about the flexibility Grantham can offer you so you can earn your degree too. It doesn't matter how complicated or full your life is. If getting a degree is on your bucket list, you'll want to do what my son did. You'll want to call Grantham. Find out how easy it is to get started on your education so you can check that college degree off your bucket list. Call Grantham right now, 800-910-1370. That's 800-910-1370. Flexible, affordable, relevant. Call 800-910-1370.
Sometimes riders feel lost, unsure why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing into full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, offering manuscript critiques and line edits through a mentoring editorial style. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your websites. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services, visit blackwolfeditorial.com.
Thank y'all for hanging in there with me while we paid those radio station bills. Yes, that is an ever-present thing. Now, I do have some updates on some stories I've covered yesterday. Just a little bit of show prep because I only got about 20 minutes and then Jen and Rick is hot on my heels. All right. We're going to start off with things that are not North Korea. I will get to the North Korean defector most momentarily. I'm starting off with not North Korea. So, and as a reminder for those of you trying to figure out how to stay in touch with me, you can find me on Twitter at Jessie's POV. And you can email me at the station at Jessie's POV at KLRNRadio.com. All right. Now, we're going to start off the story that involves U.S. Secretary of Defense Mattis. He was at the Ministry of Defense, a meeting at the Ministry of Defense in central London. And he said that the U.S. military will fight Daesh in Syria as long as they want to fight. And of course, U.S.-backed and Russian-backed forces are trying to retake the remaining pockets held by Daesh terrorists. And Mattis said the U.S. military's long-term objective would be to prevent the return of ISIS or Daesh 2.0. Now, He did say one thing that I have never heard any of our politicians express. They haven't said they're done with the area yet, so we're going to keep fighting as long as they want to fight. He is not setting an artificial timeline, which is fan-freaking-tastic. So, and Mattis said he believed the southwestern zone was working, which is they're trying to set up zones where it's safe for the refugees to come home. They're trying to get it all sorted out so people can return to their homes or what's left of them, or at least to where they came from, in hopes of finding friends, family, and whatnot. We have our own version of the Russian scandal. Oh yes, we have our own version. It's a mini version, but I couldn't help but crack up. Russia claimed it had irrefutable evidence. Yes, irrefutable evidence that the U.S. was working with ISIS in Syria. Womp womp. In an attempt to prove that surprisingly bold claim, Russia posted 5 photos on its official social media accounts. But the online sleuth quickly discovered these photographs were far from irrefutable proof. One of the 5 is none other than a screenshot from a mobile phone game, AC-130 Gunship Simulator Special Ops Squadron. The other 4 appear to have been taken from a 2016 footage release from the Iraq's Ministry of Defense depicting the Iraqi Air Force bombing Daesh targets near Fallujah. The Russian Defense Ministry has since deleted its tweets and removed the photographs from the corresponding Facebook posts. The dubious posts had claimed Russia had helped free the Syrian town of Abu Kamal from Daesh. They said the U.S. had refused to help, even allowing Daesh to regroup by providing cover for them from Russian airstrikes. Now, of course, this isn't the first time, probably won't be the last time Russia accuses us of something untoward. This time, they failed. Now, we have another lovely story from Syria. The Syrian Civil Defense Search and Rescue Volunteers, otherwise known as the White Helmets, were searching through the rubble of a market. Yes, a market. Government forces retook the nearby city of Aleppo, Syria's largest, following a ferocious assault on the rebel-held neighborhoods there in 2015. The town population swelled with the arrival of Syrians who fled from fighting elsewhere in the country's north. Ertureb's market drew not just townspeople, but also shoppers from the countryside and nearby villages. And people said they can't determine whether Russia or the Syrian government was behind the attack. Of course, the opposition Syrian National Coalition accused Russia, Syrian President Bashar al-Assad's chief backer. Now, just as a reminder, we haven't gone over this scorecard in some time, my friends. Syria is backed up by none other than Russia and Iran. And Russia trades with Iran and North Korea. And who's North Korea's big brother, none other than China. So yes, all the puzzle pieces fit together. Syria's government called on the United States earlier today to withdraw its forces from the country now that the fight against Daesh is nearly over. The Foreign Ministry statement was carried by state-run media and said the presence of U.S. troops will not force a political solution to the conflict. Of course, these comments came a day after United States Secretary of Defense Mattis said we're not just going to walk away right now before the UN political process yields results. The United States will not force a solution through military pressure, but instead it will prolong the crisis and make it more complicated, according to the Syrian ministry. The U.S. troops and advisors are supporting the Kurdish-led Syrian Democratic Forces in their fight against Daesh in the north and eastern Syria. Kurdish officials want the Americans to remain in the country to help prevent clashes with pro-government forces, which are also battling Daesh. The SDF and Syrian government troops are racing for control of territories previously controlled by Daesh in eastern Syria. Israel's largely stayed on the sidelines here, but its officials said they will not tolerate Iranian presence in Syria. They have acknowledged carrying out dozens of airstrikes on suspected Iranian weapons shipment to Lebanese militant group Hezbollah. Now, here's the other kicker. Yes, there's more. What most people don't realize is Iran is not only funding Hezbollah, but yes, they have decided that rather than shipping weapons to Hezbollah in Lebanon, they're just going to build a factory there. I've covered it before, I'll cover it again. So, Iran, and this is not the first and only time this has been brought up. This is not the first and only time I've seen it. I would love to say I've seen something new. Unfortunately, this is not the case. In fact, speaking of North Korea, yep, we're getting there, kids. We are getting there. There's been some interesting things going on there. I'm just looking through my show prep because as small as that stock sounds, I'm always misplacing something. And it wouldn't be me if there wasn't just a little chaos. Here we go. North Korean manufactured machine guns were seized by a French frigate in an inspection of small Iranian ships on their way to Somalia in the Arabian Sea. While the seizure did take place in March, the report was only recently released by the United Nations Monitoring Group of the Security Council of Somalia's sanctions. 6 North Korean Type 73 general-purpose machine guns were hidden on the ships, which were smuggling various kinds of weapons. Now, Iran purchased Type 73s from North Korea between 1970 and 1980, and used them extensively during the Iran-Iraq War from 1980 to 1988. Of course, the French inspection is believed to have scuttled an Iranian attempt to hand over North Korean and other illegal weapons to militants in the African nation. Like I said, these kids all play together. And by the way, the death toll at that Syrian market bombing I mentioned has climbed to over 60 people. Update on the earthquake between the Iran-Iraq border. The death toll continues to rise. And while I am no fan of the Iranian government, I do not wish any ill on the people. I have seen it between 450 and 500. Alright, moving right along. Now we're getting to North Korea. Yes, we're getting there. We're getting to the North Korean defector. Alright. We're just going to say a North Korean soldier defected to South Korea via Panmunjom, aka the DMZ, earlier this week. He drove a car to the area. He then exited the vehicle and continued fleeing south on foot across the military demarcation line after being shot by North Korean troops. Now, I didn't know how bad his injuries were last night. He was pretty badly hurt. The individual, presumed to be a North Korean soldier, initially took cover near a building on the southern side of the JSA, the Joint Security Area. He was recovered by the South Korean and U.S. soldiers later and transported to a hospital south of Seoul. He'd been hit by multiple gunshots while running away from the north in the heavily fortified area. He is in critical condition, and he was shot at least 5 times, and approximately 40 shots were fired at him. At the time of his defection, the soldier was clad in the North Korean Army uniform, but he was not carrying a weapon. Yes, one of Quacker's soldiers disappeared. Now, many people defect or try to defect from North Korea. Many countries will take them in. China isn't one of them. China does not classify North Korean defectors as refugees, but as people fleeing poor economic conditions. And that changes how they're treated. And I rarely discuss too much of the humanitarian side of this because it would break your heart and mind. So let me finish up with the defector, this soldier, and then we'll get to the rest of it. Like I said, he's in the hospital. He's in critical condition. They don't know if he's going to live. South Korea did not fire back, even though bullets from North Korea did cross into the Joint Security Area. So, like I said, South Korea had used some restraint. North Korea acted a fool. Just to illustrate the difference between defecting, this is the way most people defect, is via China. Alright. A North Korean defector has issued an emotional plea to China's President Xi Jinping. The defector, Mr. Lee, has not seen his 4-year-old son since his son and his wife were detained by Chinese authorities while attempting to flee from North Korea. Alright, Lee defected in 2015. He feared the long and difficult journey was too dangerous for his wife and child. He regrets that decision very bitterly. In October of this year, Lee organized for his wife and child to be helped out of North Korea. But halfway through the journey, Chinese authorities arrested them along with 8 other defectors in Shenyang, a city in northwest China. And they were captured, and like I said, if they are sent back to North Korea, the minimum they will face is prison camp. I don't know if North Korea executes children, but the wife could legitimately be executed and leave this child parentless. And Lee spent 5 years in jail from the age of 16 with his father. And this kind of scenario is not uncommon. Because in North Korea, it takes 3 generations. When someone commits a crime, 3 generations are punished. The person who committed it, maybe their parents, if not, 3 generations beyond. And like I said, China does not see them as refugees. China sees them as fleeing economic conditions or fleeing economic sanctions. All right. I am about out of time. Now, I rarely say something like this, but I'm going to let you know. First of all, I'm going to encourage everybody to go check out Mike the Cop's YouTube channel. He has a fantastic YouTube channel. Also, you can keep up with me on Twitter at Jessie's POV. You can check out jessiescoffeeshop.com. And I am looking for new authors for the 2018 season of Coffee Shop. Alright, folks. I thank y'all for hanging in there with me tonight. Now, I do have a very sore throat. I'm not sure how well my voice is going to hold out for the remainder of the week. Hopefully, I do not have to give you a best of, but I will do my best to be here every night this week. Alright, friends. I thank y'all for hanging out with me tonight, and as always, those of you who are hanging in the chat room are extra fun. And on that note, I'm out of here!